Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. As we're celebrating all of our families that are connected to Mandel Jewish Day School, all of our teachers and faculty and staff and alums that are here, it's our pleasure this Shabbat to welcome our friend, Jay Leberman, head of school of Mandel Jewish Day School, who will share words of Torah with us. Thanks, Jay, for all that you do in our partnership and guiding our children. Thank you.
There's a quote from the Rambam, also found in the Wisdom of Our Sages, Pirkei Avot, that much I've learned from my teachers, more I've learned from my colleagues, but the most I've learned is from my students. So whatever words I share today of Torah will be from the students of Mandel Jewish Day School, who I've had the opportunity with all the faculty and staff here from the school to have taught them, but also receive in return pearls of wisdom when it comes to Torah. There's another adage that says it takes a village to raise a Jewish child. And when you think about that, it's really a trinity of a village. It's the synagogue, and I want to just say right now that I'm honored and privileged to be here, to be part of this congregation, to see the phenomenal work that you do in raising the next generations of Jews to proudly take their place in this here in the United States as well as in Israel. So I want to thank and commend the clergy of B'nai Jeshurun, as well as the administrative staff. Shani, you're sitting over there. I want to thank you for putting this all together. I know it took a long time. I also would like to recognize my colleagues in the room today, the staff, the administrative staff, the teachers, and especially I want to thank someone who has really put her imprimatur on the school for the last 2 decades, who has given us a direction that is both of excellence in secular education as well as in Jewish education. That's Les Spector, who's sitting right over there, the principal of Mandel Jewish Day School. So in about the 1960s, a new organization was formed at the Jewish Theological Seminary, an institute called the Melton Center for Jewish Education. It was replicated later at Hebrew University, and a couple other words were added for Jewish education in the diaspora. And the man that led it was a man by the name of Seymour Fox. And they came out with several curricular guides. How do we teach this young generation, the youngsters of back then, the 1960s, 70s, today, the 2020s, in a way that will make Jewish texts, sacred texts, Judaism appealing to them? And they came up with some guidelines which were really, as we say in Hebrew, muvan me'elav. They were self-evident. Teach the text the way it appears. Make sure that the student, adult or child, understands it for its literal meaning, the pshat. Then try to understand it within the context of how it was written, where it belongs in the story or part of the ancient Near East. And then the most important thing is, what does it mean to the person? What does it mean to that student? And so with that, you actually skip what's normative mostly in Orthodox education, right from the text to the commentator, whether it's Rashi, the Ramban, Ibn Ezra, whoever it might be. But you have the student discover it, discover the text. What does it mean to you? How does it speak to you? How doesn't it speak to you? What is missing from the text? What can you add? And so this week, I have the opportunity every week to teach the middle school. But this week, I met with a group of middle school students, and I told them something from really a visual from the great, great biblical scholar Mel Brooks. How many of you seen the movie History of the World Part 1? I don't think he ever did Part 2. Maybe he did. He did. Oh, then maybe I missed that. And in the movie, Moses is coming down, and I quote, and he has 3 tablets, 3 luchot, and he's walking down the mountain, and he's speaking, the Lord has given you these 15, one falls down and breaks, these 10 commandments. What commandments were in that other tablet? So taking into account the methodology, how we employ the Melton Center approach and everything else in the school to try to ensure that our students not only understand the text, but make it meaningful to them, I challenge my class, assume there's another luach, another tablet. What would you add to the Ten Commandments today? and by commandments, we know that the word dibra is really a statement, an utterance, not a commandment. What for you today, in 2024, excuse me, is missing from those original 10? And I want to share with you what they wrote. But before I do so, I'm going to ask the audience here, the Kihila, what do you think were some of the themes that 6th, 7th, 8th graders might have added to the Ten Commandments for today? Anybody want to raise their hand? And if you're in my class, you can't answer that question. Yes? Thou shalt not bully. Okay, how many think that's a good one? Okay, what else? Care for the land. How many think that would resonate? And I'll take one more or two. I can't hear you. Do not succumb to peer pressure. Great. So let me read to you a little bit what these students added. Meaning, again, from my teachers I learned a lot, from my colleagues even more, but from my students the most. So, Rabbi Hal mentioned the soldiers that have been killed in the state of Israel, fighting for us, the hostages that we pray for their return. So think about what's on the mind of some of these middle schools since October 7th. So Nathan, for example, the first thing he said, do not kidnap people. Okay, it's not in, it might be later on, but it's not in there. Do not kidnap people. And then he also wrote, treat soldiers with respect and dignity. Now, I'm not sure if he would have added that prior to October 7th, but that's what's in the mind right now of a middle schooler. The other thing is, and we discussed this, and when I went to day school, it was a big, used to have debates with my teachers about why doesn't the Torah forbid slavery? Slavery is actually permitted. There are two types of slavery, but nevertheless. So Michael, his first thing was that needed to be commandment number 11, there shall be no slavery. And that still exists in the world today. People said about bullying. We have a lot of them wrote about respect others and their opinions. We live in a world where we have this cancel culture, and they're familiar with it. They're attuned to it, just as the adults. So it's not just respecting others, but respect opinions. Don't cancel them so quickly. Throughout, just about everyone said treat the environment and the entire physical world with respect. So environmentalism clearly would be another dibra if you wanted to add it to the Ten Commandments. Now think about also the world of these young people. My world still, sorry, I give away my age, is reading the newspaper in the morning, the actual physical newspaper. Their world is a social media world. And several of them wrote, and I quote, let me find it, do not use technology for bad reasons. Okay, so that resonates today, right? That resonates. Ari wrote about, who read Torah today, exercise self-control, listen before speaking, honor yourself for who you are, and respect others for who they are. And he was the one who wrote also, do not abuse technology, okay? But think about that. These are ideas and method or ways that they think the world needs to be improved or changed. And that if we had more commandments, these should have been included as well. Mia wrote that it wasn't enough to say kaved et avicha v'et imecha. It wasn't enough just to say respect your parents. What about your grandparents? So she said that needed to be added as well. Because don't assume that because you respect your parents, it's automatically you're going to respect your grandparents, especially when they get older and frail. I was very proud of that. Also, she wrote, and this is more of an idea, but the first two commandments are really ideas. They're not really actionable, you know? They're ideas, things we can't think or we have to think. Be grateful for what has been given to you. Think about that. Protect the environment. Treat someone else how you would want to be treated yourself. That's kind of a Hillel rule, but it's not in the Aseret Dibrot. And I love this one. This is, again, a thinking one. It's an attitudinal one. Think positively in negative situations. Try and turn the negativity, maybe that exists, not just in their lives as middle schoolers, but also in the world, and make it positive. David wrote, and again, after October 7th, only in times of war are you permitted to injure an imposing soldier or human being. I'm not sure if that would have been written prior to October 7th. And he had categories. One was laws of war, equality, parenthood, games, basic needs. So under equality, all human beings should be treated with respect, regardless of skin color, gender, race, and so on. It's not in the Ten Commandments. Well, it would be number 12 or 11 if he had another luach. And then he had for parenthood, and this is amazing. This is through the eyes of an 8th grader. Don't engage in sexual relations if you're not ready to raise a child with care and love. Amazing. Games. Do not gamble because gambling can destroy lives. And basic needs, no one should be denied sustenance, medicine, shelter, water, and an education. This is coming from an 8th grader. Beautiful, beautiful vision of how we should act and maybe not act as well. Maya wrote the following, and again, this is a theme: do not discriminate against people who are not like you. Protect the earth and the environment by keeping it healthy and clean. Help people when they are struggling. Speak up and stand for yourself. This is coming from a young female. And don't be rude or mean to others regardless of the circumstances. Okay? Another vision of how people should act. Then we have from Josiah. Treat the world around you with respect for the sake of your children and their children. Looking forward, looking beyond, as we see that in, I think, earlier in the Ten Commandments before Kaved Avicha. Remember that there is good in everyone, and always begin an interaction with respect and patience. I'm going to hang that up in the middle school, by the way, on Monday, because it's a great vision. We have to all practice it. Do not put down others for your own personal benefit. Bloodshed should never be the answer for disagreements, and compromises should always be looked for. And this is amazing as well. If you find yourself with an excess of material possessions and your neighbor is lacking basic necessities, donate some of those possessions for the betterment of your neighbor. So at the end of the Ten Commandments, we give a negative thing: don't covet your neighbor. But he's taken that and he turned it around, that the neighbor that has should provide for the neighbor that doesn't have. And this, I think, is, again, quite remarkable. Michael wrote the following, among other things: every year, the top 25% of the wealthiest people in the world should give away 5% of their wealth to the lowest 10%. That's a great thing, you know, and this is what they're thinking, okay? And of course, treat the environment and the entire world with respect. Again, and I could go on, but this is just, and Romy, we have another student, Romy, who came from Israel, who's in our school right now. Respect the opinion of the other, Hazulat, she wrote. All human beings are created equal. And we teach that from Breshit, but it's not in the Ten Commandments. And again, the number one theme, other than respect for the other, environmental. And these are the things that are on the minds of young people today. And they're here to teach us, because They can't vote yet, and we can. And in a few years, with God's help, they'll vote, and they'll vote wisely. But these are the things that our young people of today, at Mandel, but I'm sure at Gross Schechter and elsewhere as well, okay, are thinking about and feeling very strongly what needs to not occur and what should occur as well. And I find it's that it gives us a window of looking forward, of the future. These are the important items that are swirling around in their minds, other than maybe sports, what to wear on a given day to school or to a bar bat mitzvah. But these are the important things. No one wrote anything superficial. And they really took this very seriously. So I don't know if any of you remember, I'm giving away my age again. I was a little young for that, but starting at 1959 to 1967, so 67 already, I was a little older. How many of you remember Art Linkletter? Art Linkletter had a TV show every week. Remember what he used to say? Kids say the darndest things. Well, it's not the darndest things. Sometimes kids say the most creative, the most insightful, the most things with the most wisdom. And we can learn so much from their wisdom as we move forward as adults, thinking about what is important to them. How can we add? We don't have to subtract from the Aseret HaDibrot, but what can we add to them that would make life in this world, in their world, and the whole world more meaningful, more just, and more peaceful. So with that, I want to thank you again, all of you, for letting me have this opportunity to interact with you, but also on behalf of the Mandel Jewish Day School, we love the collaboration that we have with B'nai Jeshurun. We love the fact that your clergy comes and visits us and teaches our children, and we will continue everything we can to cement that collaboration, because we need the shul, we need the school, and we need families. Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks again to Jay and the entire Mandel JDS staff and family for all that you do for our families, our children, and our community.